So Professor Sean, let's start with you. You work with senior executives from all around the world and are an award-winning author on customer centricity and how organizations can deploy customer-led strategies to deliver superior performance. What does human-centric service design mean in the context of government services?
Right. I think this is key. How should we start even to think about this? Let me give you two examples to get us going. One is a doctor who's in charge of neonatal care in Glasgow Hospital decides, on the basis of some experiences and prompts that he has had in working in internships around the world, he decides that parents need to be involved in the care of their babies, the prematurely born babies, in the hospital, and delegate care to those parents. Now, maybe that doesn't seem like a huge thing, but it is against the standard protocol in the hospital. He is to convince the parties, the team around him, that this is an okay thing to do, and to give the parents the courage to actually get involved. They do get involved, and what happens? The recovery rates are better. The kids put on much more weight, they breastfeed faster, and they're discharged more healthily, more early. That's a great outcome. But it doesn't happen automatically. The man saw a situation, he cared about it, and was motivated to get something done that wasn't easily programmable. Another example, Transport for London, the underground tube service. Lots of things that you may have experienced not to like and not like about this service. One of the guards at a station, now this is a minimum wage employee, observed in the morning passengers in their hundreds and thousands walking past in a daze, sort of miserable, on the way to work or on the way to somewhere. No spark in them. And he decided, let's do something about this. And he just wanted to share niceness. And he got a whiteboard, and he started to write on the whiteboard thought of the day. And sometimes it was a quote from a book, or just a cute saying, just something to perk people up. What was the outcome? The outcome was that passengers started to talk to one another. They started to discuss. They started to answer the riddle. They started to wonder, what did this mean? What was the relevance? And it became a thing. Some of the passengers decided to make an Instagram page for exactly this. It spread. Other stations started to pick it up. Traveler satisfaction went through the roof. And what was this? This was just an individual seeing a situation, caring, and trying to get something done. So back to your question. What is empathy? I think it's not just about listening. I think that listening is easy.
Yeah.
Are you hearing? And are you motivated to get something done? And if you are, that probably means you care. Now, why would you care? Usually you care because you have been one of those people. You've been a passenger, you've been a parent, or you've been in that situation. You are capable of walking in the shoes. This is why it's difficult, by the way, because if you think about people who are empowered to make big policy decisions, typically they live different lives to ordinary citizens. They're surrounded by support, help, and their lives are actually made easy. It's exactly the same with senior executives. It's pretty hard to imagine some senior executive at Procter & Gamble, probably in their 50s, really understanding and remembering and caring, well, especially if they're a man, taking care of a little kid at home, for example, potty training. What have they got to offer on this, unless they were deeply involved at that time? So who do you want involved in that? You want a mom. You want somebody who has experience of this. Empathy is about hearing, listening, caring, and being sufficiently motivated, understanding the opportunity for improvement, being sufficiently motivated to move mountains if it takes that to get it done.
Thank you, Professor, for setting the context so well. I'm going to move to Iman now. Let's try and put this into context and bring it to life with an example, right? So we understand in Dubai, there's a Services 360 vision that you're very much leading. So, how does this vision align to the definition of empathy and human centricity, and how is that factored into Services 360?
Well, the journey in Dubai, the Model Center and the Executive Council of Dubai government started 15 years back. And the journey started, to be honest, with two main pillars, customer centricity and efficiency. So when you say customer centricity, that means you have to deal with the customers, you have to understand their needs, their expectations, how do they feel. So empathy will be there embedded and also seen. So actually the journey started early, as I said, 15 years back, but it's get evolved by time because, service improvement, it's a journey, it's not a destination. So we keep evolved. So 3 years back, His Highness came to us and he said, well, it's time for us right now to upgrade the journey, to go to somewhere different, to go somewhere else. So what does that mean? 360 implies looking at the service delivery from all the angles, actually. How you deliver it, when do you deliver it, where do you deliver it, to whom you deliver it, and how they feel when you deliver it. So if I'm gonna, we came up with the characteristics of the service. How does it should look like? Seamless service, digitalized service, proactive service, efficient service. So we define the characteristics of the services and how we should deliver it. And if I'm gonna add to what just Professor Sean just mentioned, and we are so lucky to be in this part of the world. In our government, we think service and we think people. So we think, we feel, we listen, and we understand, and then we act. If you don't act upon listening to the people and understanding how they feel, you will never do anything. So that's in a nutshell what 360 vision is about. So we redesigned the whole services, and we use different tools and methodologies to reach to that end. For instance, I'll give you a simple example. Emergency example. It's the government should deliver it. We like it or we don't like it. Now, how we deliver it, we figured out during studying this journey, long time back, there is a problem with accidents. When an accident happened, there only one center, trauma center in the city, and all, let's say, patients should be traveled to this hospital. It was very painful because sometimes during this journey, it's an instant, if it's in Jebel Ali and Mustashfa Rashid Hospital, it's in the middle of the city, people dies. People dies during this. So we re-looked at this journey, we understand and we study to understand what we should do. So we transformed the service. Today, we did a partnership with some private sectors in different zones in Dubai that they can accept these cases, even death cases, on behalf of the government. So a lot of, it sounds simple, but there is a lot of a whole of government approach, let's say, activities being done in the background. That's a simple example.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I'm going to touch upon in a bit on some of the tools and methods that you have installed. But now let's get a perspective from a different part of the world. So Tamara, you've developed a global reputation for introducing culture, practices, and technologies of the digital era to help governments. And you also have an extensive background in public services across North America, specifically the US and Europe. And in the US, you led the digital service reform initiatives as part of the state of California. And in the past couple of years, you've also been a Minister of Public Administration's digital transformation. So can you tell us from your experience and journey a little bit about what it takes to build human-centered public services and the associated policy frameworks?
Sure, absolutely. First of all, I just want to say I'm super grateful to be here, super humbled to be surrounded by fellow leaders who are trying to build more effective government for the 21st century. And I think our common mission and purpose to make government work for everyone, while it's often very challenging, it is the most rewarding and meaningful mission that anybody can have. So I was privileged to serve under 2 California governors and support Obama in his first term. And then 3 years ago, I got an opportunity of a lifetime when a new government in Montenegro, my home country, was formed. I got pulled to be the Minister of Public Administration, Digital, and Media. And so some of the learnings is whether it's the fourth largest economy in the world, like government of California, or a tiny country in the Mediterranean, like Montenegro, we have so much more to learn from each other. We're all stuck in classified processes, in bureaucracies. There's a lot of things we can reuse and learn from one another instead of reinventing the wheel. So I like to talk a lot about delivery and human-centered government, which is interchangeable, because I firmly believe that people experience government through delivery. And no matter how great policies we set in place, if our government's capacity to deliver programs and services is stifled, or if we are not meeting people where they are, we are not co-designing with them, not just listening, but going further, co-designing with them, we are failing. And so most of my career in public service, I focused on helping teams and building teams who have improved that delivery muscle, meeting people where they are, understanding their needs, and delivering in the most effective, human-centered, and equitable way, dignified way. So 15 years ago, I observed that the mindset and the culture of government has begun to change through open data. So I convinced the governor of California to start open data journey. And so that was a catalyst for us to change the culture really inside of the government, to start building with the people, to start moving from the risks and liabilities mindset to opportunities and possibilities mindset. And so around the same time, some of you may have this on your radar. During Obama's first term, his flagship policy, Obamacare, was jeopardized by a failing website. So 500 vendors worked on this website. Wow. The day when it was announced, healthcare.gov failed. You can Google, there was all over the place, Obama was in jeopardy because of the failing website. So this experience surfaced how the disaster of bureaucracy almost costed the President of the United States his seat. And it was an exercise in bureaucracy hacking and people empowerment more than the technology fix. What he did later, he pulled 5 Googlers. He had them work with the people who are already working on the website. They fixed the website over 3 weeks, but it wasn't the technology, it was the people, the culture, how they were iterating on the solution. That was the key. So this highlighted the necessity of changing culture. How might the government instill the product mindset and iterative human-centered practices? And so this was sort of the catalyst for Obama to start this US Digital Services Office, which we then implemented in the government of California. So we built digital teams that were charged to establish private industry culture and mindset, as well as incorporate iterative human-centered practices and tools in a way that the government delivered. Not just the products, not just technology, but the processes and policies. Because if you digitalize a bad process, you're going to get a bad digitalized process. By empowering your teammates to get these tools and techniques that are implemented in private industry around tightly defining the problem, observing, empathetic and active listening, iterating on whether it's a product, process, or a solution, you will actually get a more effective solution. So I'll give you just one quick example. During COVID-19, for all of us, things were changing very rapidly. Our digital service unit was not just delivering website and iterating on the website, updating it with the key information every 2 hours. We had done research on the ground with nail salons, with restaurant owners, with industry owners to understand what are their key questions, points of concern. As we were iterating on that website, we would implement all of those insights we've learned from these people in the guidance document. So this is how we've sort of started implementing human-centered design and how we developed policies and better processes. So I think a more empathetic and more effective government is the one that puts policy and tech at the same table, that empowers public servants with the delivery muscle, that gives public servants these tools from iterative service design, whether it's journey mapping, affinity mapping, and tightly defining the problem to be able to then address it very effectively.
Thank you, Tamara. There's a lot in there that we'll unpack as we continue the discussion. But I'm going to go to Professor Sean now. So I think we're all sold on the need to be customer-centric, infusing empathy into sort of public service delivery. But you mentioned it in your opening sort of answer, that it is not easy, it's challenging. So why is that? And what have organizations done to overcome these challenges?
I think, just understanding what it is the biggest challenge. There's a delusion amongst senior managers, at least executives. And to the extent that may exist in government, I can't say. But there's a risk that it's just too easy to say that we want to be citizen-centric. In companies, it's too easy to say we want to be customer-centric and we want to put customers first. How many times have you heard we want to put the customers at the center of everything we do? That is a typical remark from a senior executives, partly because they believe the world expects them to say that. The customers expect them to say that, the partners, the investors, the employees, everybody's expecting this pattern. It's meaningless. 75% of senior executives will say that customer centricity is the main driver of success. 75%. You then analyze what do you do, what you actually do. 25% are following anything that you could remotely associate as being genuinely customer-centric. Now, what's the distinction? The distinction is, do you put customers first? Mm-hmm. Easy to say, so let me just be clear what I mean. It means you do not put shareholders first. You do not put shareholders first. You do not say all stakeholders are equal. You say customers are the intelligent filters of the various inputs in your organization. They can see how you do business. They can see how you treat your employees. They understand how you get to your prices. They understand your responsibility to your environment and the countries and the environments in which you are operating globally. And they make a decision on that basis. Peter Drucker was really clear about what this all meant in 1954. 1954. And here we are in 2024, and we haven't made a whole heck of a lot of progress, it seems to me. So it is clearly very, very difficult, mainly because there's a lot of confusion. There's a sense of, if you do customer service, oh, you must be customer-centric. If you do customer experience mapping, oh, you must be customer-centric. It's exactly the same with citizen centricity. The issue is intent. Why are you doing it? Now, you do get into issues of short-termism, long-termism. So in a corporate environment, in the long term, you can absolutely align economic interests and customer interests. The interests of shareholders and the interests of customers in the long term, even in the medium term, can be pretty well aligned, and these various other stakeholders. There's a similar dynamic, but not in the short term. In the short term, investments in customer first enablers and in services that we know customers are going to appreciate, that will reduce pain points and so on, will definitely cost you a lot of money and you will not see the return. In fact, you cannot even predict what the return will be. You cannot say to your finance director, we will have a 10% return on this in any time period. You don't know. You cannot know. So do you believe it's the right thing to do? If you believe it's the right thing to do, you spend the money up front, that's the thing you're sure of, and you believe that it will come eventually with a good economic outcome, which is also good for customers. You have exactly the same in the government services environment. I speculate, I'm willing to suggest, in some political environments, you have elections in the short term. You have to do you have to say the things that you believe will get you the votes, and in the long term, you may not be able to afford to deliver on those promises. So you have to somehow reconcile the two. What happens? The customer, the citizen, makes an arbitration in their mind. They say, well, that can't be so. And therefore, I do not trust this party. And therefore, I'm willing to not back it. I'll go with the other option. So I think the reason it's difficult is because it challenges a belief system. It is not difficult to adopt the practices, the routines, and the methods that we sometimes call customer centricity or even citizen centricity. This is the easy part. The intent is the difficult part.
Okay, that's very powerful. If switching gears a little bit, obviously when we talk about human centricity, there's a lot of focus on the users that end up using the service. But there also needs to be an equal, if not greater, focus on those that actually design and deliver these services. And Tamara, you talked a little bit about the tools, methods, practices that needs to be embedded. So my question to you, Iman, is what tools and methodologies does the Dubai Model Center use pretty much across the entire life cycle of uncovering insights around customer expectations,
right,
feedback, and really translating those into actionable insights that can influence the design and delivery of services?
Well, during the journey, there is plenty of them, and we've been always, studying and reflecting and see where we can change them. Let me tackle this question with two different areas, where I would say we do have two different approaches. There is strategic approach that we make sure that we're having the right methodologies and tools on the ground, and there is also operational, which is the tools by itself. In a strategic level, we set six KPIs. It's among the whole government, that tackling and being communicated very well with the government entities to make sure that we are reaching the target. One of the targets, for example, is the trust on the government. We are keen and we are about to have like 99% trust on the government. And I would say Dubai is very successful in this. We are lucky here because all our customers, they do have the trust that you will be safe. You have the trust that you will get your education. They have the trust that you will get the medical services that you need, either from the government or also from the public sectors, because we work as one team together. So we tackle it also from 100% services digitalized, 95% of customer experience. So we set a certain targets and we measure during the year across these targets, where are we standing? Now, in operational level, we have to enable our government. We have to help them. We have to support them. And we have to make sure that our customers are addressed. They are part of our design. And also, we're efficient. Efficient is really, really important. Because the customer, at the end of the day, maybe you have beautiful channels, you have an amazing journey, you designed it from your perspective, but at the end of the day, service was not efficient. So we didn't reach the target. So if we're going to talk on operational level, we do have different, let's say, I would say art on the public services arena. Number one, we do understand our customers. What do they need? What's their expectations? So we're running studies ongoing to understand the needs and expectations for our customers, to make sure that we are investing on the right track, we're on the right path. Maybe we're investing on a different area that he's not interested even on it. And I'm very happy about what I heard on the last session. The AI is going to help me a lot on that. So I will not share my feeling when I was scared, but I would share my feeling when I find it a big opportunity that I'm going to learn from or use it to understand more my customers. Another tool, it's well known on the public service arena, which is the journey mapping. So we do an empathy mapping, we do a journey mapping. In Dubai, I have a map for every single service, solo service and an integrated service. Every single service delivered in Dubai, we draw the journey. Not myself, not my team. We draw it all with the whole government. So everyone knows what he should do. And during this journey, of course, we touch base with the pinpoints of the customers and where's the pain and where are the gaps and where we can improve and where are the empathy. Where did he feel bad about it? Or how did he feel in these interactions? And we act. Over here, we act immediately. Of course, innovation is a major element that we never, ever forget it in all our methodologies. And it's one of the main criteria that we assess when we assess the services on the award or whatever. Innovation is a must. Actually, it's let's say, it's our lifestyle in the public services arena. So these are the things that we do. I would say that we do have a set of tools on the ground also. We do have a lot of guidance for the government, how to deal with, and we've been discussing this last night, how to deal with the service failing, the failure of service, how to deal with the, I can't recall, maybe my team can help me with the names. Different guides, we put it on the ground. How do you study your expectation for every single segment? How do you measure the perception? How do you measure how do you use the qualitative and quantitative data you collect from the customers? How do you deal with it? So we have a lot of guidance on guide tools on the ground that being built with the government, not away from them.
Very powerful. I think sticking to the same theme of continuing to empower and upskill our people, Tamara, I want to come to you now. So you founded a Digital and Leadership Academy in the state of California and then brought these practices to Europe with your mandate as a minister in government in Montenegro. And you talk a lot about the role of empathy in public service and the importance of fostering a culture of empathy within government, creating services that are not just efficient, but are equally accessible and also compassionate and inclusive. So let's get you to share your perspective on, how do you actually empower talent within the public sector to be able to put all of these practices into reality?
Thank you. So I think I'm gonna kind of tie between what my fellow panelists have shared. We talked about the intent, we talked about the strategy and tools, and I think we all are thinking about the culture. And so the question that some of my teams have always posed is, how do we intentionally build that culture that will get us to really build that government that addresses the real needs? Because I'm going to actually tie to what you said about Peter Drucker. One of his favorite things that he says is culture eats strategy for breakfasts. So no matter how great culture you've set in place, if you internally do not create that space that actually empowers public servants to actually hear and then implement what they've heard, the other things, then you're not going to actually succeed. So it goes back to the values. Have you established values within your teams? Are you manifesting and modeling them so that they feel empowered? But I think the first hack here is empower your public servants. They already know how to get things done. They already know how to hack bureaucracy, how to cut the red tape. So give them the tools, the methods, but more importantly, give them the space to deliver. So the Digital and Leadership Academy, we often talk about the tech skills, like product management, human-centered design. But I think what's most and more important is some people call it soft skills, but I like to call it power skills. How do we empower our teammates with first of all understanding what their superpower is? How do we all, each and every one of us, lean on our superpowers to contribute to our teams? How do we develop this growth mindset around our teams? Like I've noticed in Dubai, one of your superpowers is competition. You like to compete. But how do we approach it from the abundance mindset? And how do we empower each other to do better as a team? How do we develop a space of psychological safety where everybody feels safe to say, if they found something, raise it up? Something that we've instituted in most of our teams is we celebrate failure bows. So if somebody in a team makes a mistake, we raise our hand up in the air and say, I failed, because we gotta fail on a path to success. But we instituted little things, little cultural artifacts and things that signal to all of our teams, it's okay to fail, it's okay to try, it's okay to take risks. And so it's a part of the Digital Academy that we put together. We've open sourced all of these tools, and you are welcome to tap into them. I'm working with public servants from all around the world who are creating this gallery of open source tools, from journey mapping to, how do you embrace failure? And then you asked about the talent, and I want to put a plug in on something that I think could be helpful. But when COVID happened in US, a lot of our systems were failing. As an example, unemployment benefit system. A lot of people lost jobs. They needed unemployment benefits. We didn't have enough capacity to deliver. So we pulled people from corporations, medium-sized companies, on the civic leave tour of duty stint. Their companies let them come in and help us for like up to 6 months. And what they were doing is they weren't fishing for us. They weren't actually solving problems. They were teaching public servants how to fish. So their mandate was not to unstuck this failing unemployment benefit system. It was to train our fellow public servants how to use product mindset. How do you iterate? How do you, on whether it's a better process or a product? How do you research? How do you empathetically and actively listen to understand what the person that we are solving this problem for needs? And so so we have a bench of about 20,000 people, or I think more, all around the world, there are people who work in private industry who would be privileged to join your teams to help you solve a problem. They are pro bono help. So we need to, if you would love to take advantage of this, it's called Rebel Alliance, and the amazing humans, product managers, designers, engineers all around the world would love to come in, side-by-side work with your team to help you solve a problem. So I don't know if you have a way to post any information after this.
Yeah,
I'll
we can do that
send the
after,
website. Yeah. But it's here I'm talking about the capacity challenge I think that we're all facing. I've talked to the amazing Emiratis team that invited us yesterday. You know, they have built, they have bold, audacious goals, and so you know, it takes a big team to do that. But if you're striving for greatness, we're going to want to increase that capacity so that we can actually be proactive and also reactive, because that's what the bureaucracy necessitates.
Right. Yeah.
Sure, that's really good. And just keeping on the same theme, maybe Iman, can you talk a little bit about what we're doing in the UAE or Dubai specifically? I think the Government Service Engineers Program is a program that's focused on equipping users.
That's on the capability building. What are we doing? Because at the end of the day, you need to empower the service designers to deliver it on the proper way. So. Actually, the journey of, let's say, capability building started in the early stages. When we started back days on 2010, we wanted to make sure that our government employees are capable to do the journey mapping on our behalf. So it was part of, let's say, soft knowledge transfer. I don't want them to depend on the central government to do it on their behalf. So we ran a program by that time called Make It Happen Today. So it's more training and empowering the government entities. Nowadays, also for the 360 vision, we're running a program called 360 Service Designers. To be honest, this area, we are lacking biolingual experience on here. So we make sure that we have enough designers who understand how to deal with the empathy. What does it mean, I don't feel good? What does it mean when the customer says, you're not listening? What does it mean exactly? So this is a full program. It's a well-designed program. It's like 3 weeks on different intervals. And we take them through a real challenge, a real different challenge out of their comfort zone, not part of their experience. So they will be able to deal with different sectors, different kind of service. I would say this program's been very successful this year, and right now we have like more than 1,000 employees being service designers on the government. They're ready to serve. It's really, really supporting the government to implement the whole of government approach as well.
That's really great. Professor, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but from a private sector perspective, what sort of programs can we use to sort of really, beyond the top executives, how do you sort of instill this within all levels within the organization?
So I think actually some of them have already been mentioned with regard to what goes on in the public sector. It's exactly the same in the private sector. So you have to make it clear in an organization what you celebrate and what you do not celebrate. What gets you a pat on the back versus the alternative. And that needs to be very, very clear. Sometimes we talk about, the way things really get done in an organization, what's really valued. Just watch what gets a compliment, what gets appreciation, what gets gratitude. It's so clear. You can hang around for 2 days and you know what's valued in an organization. It doesn't take a genius to work this out. So first of all, the leadership have got to be clear. What are we trying to achieve? How do we must recognize efforts that are going in this direction. We must say so. Our appreciation and our approval, our support needs to be evident and observable by everyone who's around. Stories go a long way. There'll be an incident and a senior executive in the organization will intervene and say, no, it shouldn't be this way, it should be that way. They'll correct it, and that story will go around the organization like wildfire, and that is how culture spreads in an organization. Stories spread culture in an organization, help people understand what is valued. So I suppose that's one. The other, there's a technique, and it's very, very difficult for government leaders. It's maybe not difficult for people in the public service, but certainly for public officials, people in the public eye, it is very difficult. I accept that. But a technique that is used in the private sector is that executives go incognito to the point of service, whether that's in business to business or whether it's business to consumer. So the senior executives in Shell need to go to the worst service stations across the world in order to experience the dreadful service that is experienced by people who actually fill up their own cars. Why? Because when they're sitting in London or Rotterdam, wherever The Hague, they actually never fill up their cars. Somebody else fills up their cars. They drive it in the morning, the car gets valeted, there's petrol put in the car, they never have to use a service station. Their very own product, where they make real money at service stations. So, there's an old story, which is, what does a driver really value? So this is what Shell did, and it was a kind of a customer journey thing. Right. I'm driving along the motorway. I want to know where is the next service station, so I realize, do I need to get a fill or do I not need to get a fill? So it has to be clearly indicated well in advance. Signage. Then, when it's time, there needs to be a slip road. On the slip road, I expect proper arrows that tell me exactly where to drive so that there's no risk that I'm going to have a collision on my way to the pump. Okay. When I park my car and I leave my car, I really would prefer not to put my feet on a big oily patch on the forecourt. I would then like to go to the pump, grab the pump, take it off the place, and not have an oily hand when I finish. I would like to fill the car, put the pump back. If I feel like a bio break, I would like to know where the bathrooms are, have a reasonable expectation that they are clean, efficiently run, and so on. And then I go to the shop. What do I want in the shop? I want to pay and leave. Now, here's the snag. Most petrol companies, most gas companies, don't make money selling gas. They make money selling potato chips, pop, magazines, sandwiches, all of this stuff. Yeah. So they want you in the shop. Their eye is on the shop. Their eye isn't on the messy forecourt, the messy handle, the bad signage. And yet, when you ask customers what are their pain points, that's what they're going to tell you. Now, if I, the senior executive, don't have that journey, I can't possibly understand. So, what do I have to do? I have to give time for this, and I have to do it incognito. So the biggest, very common mistake is that, and maybe this is also heads of government experience this, ministers probably experience this. I'm going to go to a place, well, okay, let's ring ahead 1 week in advance, 1 month in advance. Let's get the advance party to make sure everything is right. We don't want anything going wrong on the trip. That defeats the entire purpose. The purpose is to experience what goes wrong on the average trip, right. Not the special trip. Right. So you need to have that discipline to do these things honestly, with some integrity. And I think then the truth will start to come into the organization. You have a more realistic view. You interpret data differently. The one thing I think that the mistake that companies and decision makers make is that they rely on reports. Reports have oodles of data, pages and spreadsheets, charts, graphs, tables, but they lack feeling. When that is combined with, when I have that, and it's the real analysis, and it's important data, when that is then combined with, aha, I saw that very problem that data is describing, I saw it in person, I experienced it, and I know how I felt when I experienced that problem. I am now motivated to get it fixed, and I have the evidence to back up why I should get it fixed. That's what I think you should do.
That's a great example. We can be here for a long time, but I'm conscious we're running out of time. I'm going to ask you one final question, and very brief answer from each of you. Here in the UAE, we're always focused on the future. So I want to ask you to look into the future, not too long, 6 years from now. So in 2030, how do you see government services being delivered to our constituents? Maybe Iman, I'll start with you, and then we make our way down.
Well, so, today I was scared when the AI came on the stage, to be honest. So I think AI will take over on the service delivery, and we will need to deal with the people factor, because empathy, it's going to be still an issue in this thing. So being in this part of the world, being a proud UAE local, being a government official on the public services, I see the services will be always pioneering here. Expectations, regardless where we are right now today, expectations is still high and high and high. So I would say the service will reach you wherever you are, even if you're still living here or living somewhere, but even if you're resident local, the services, I think, will be reaching out to the customers.
Okay. We have another panel later on AI in government services. I'm sure
Then I should be back to
Tamara?
Thank you.
Great question, and thank you. And my answer is not going to be shiny or flashy. I'm going to turn back to our hosts, the wonderful team here that has inspired all of us, brought us all together, and just kind of tell you to keep inspiring the world with unimaginable, a big vision and bold, audacious goals, and keep modeling leadership rooted in opportunities, possibilities, and curiosity. But I do believe governments that succeed are the governments that invest in good teams, great teams, not in products, not in projects. And so I always continue to encourage my government fellows to empower their teammates with these tools, techniques, mindset, and the culture, give them the space to build with the people that we are serving, and co-design solutions with them. Because at the end of the day, the word innovation that is thrown around a lot, right. At the end of the day, what is it? It's a problem definition. If we can't tightly define the problem and empower our government servants to do that through listening and empathy, then we can't really solve the right problem. And so the last ingredient, you're doing a lot of amazing things. I want to echo what the Prime Minister Brnabić and the Chief Minister of Sierra Leone said. Do share with the world what you're doing here. Open source. Not just like your technology, not your open source code. Open source your hacks, your plays, your tools, your journey mapping techniques, all of that. The world is eager and hungry to learn what you've got. You already got this culture of unimaginable. You're focused on opportunities and possibilities, but also share the tools so that any country, no matter how fortunate or unfortunate it is, can leverage what you've already done. Well said.
Thank you.
Look, I'm hugely optimistic, and I'm going to take a view from the private sector, because I think it maps on directly. I think in the future we can expect, and will expect, and we will experience government services that are joined up and anticipatory. They will help us make our lives better. And what the outcome of this is higher trust. And we know this exactly from the private sector. The more you interact, the more you use your data to intelligently anticipate at an individual level, not as a segment level, not at a sub-group level, at an individual level. You'll need to do this in the next 3 weeks, or it's going to expire, or whatever. Make my life easy. And when you're doing this, you're now my partner. I'm working with you. All over the world, we have governments where citizens feel oppressed by their governments, not because of any kind of politics, but it's just difficult to deal with the bureaucracies. Make it easy. Joined up, anticipatory, fast, correct. That's what we expect. And I think that's what we're going to get. And we will get it from the leaders, such as we have here. And I think and the leaders will get extraordinary. There will be the laggards. You will have countries where this is just not going to happen because they are ignoring what we are saying, what we have been talking about here this morning. They won't make the steps. They're not letting the penny drop that it is a trust builder, and they should be confident in liberating the relationship and the information bridge between government and citizens. Make it a two-way street, make them partners together. For goodness sake, governments are the custodians of societies. So we have to work together.
Thank you all for sharing your perspectives. I think 5 things that stood out for me in the last sort of 40 minutes of our discussion: the power of vision, so setting the intent, focusing on the why and the what of what we're trying to achieve. Truly understanding users. And then, Professor, when we spoke before the panel, you mentioned something that I'm going to use now, is focusing on the people behind the data and not just the data. Intentionally building culture and equipping those that serve our users with the right tools, methods, guidance, and truly engaging customers in the whole process of designing what we're building for them. Focusing on delivery. I think, Tamara, you said it, people experience government through delivery, so bringing that intentional focus on making it consistent. And then finally, as you said, Iman, it's a journey, not a destination, so having a focus on continuous improvement and innovation. So, Iman, Tamara, Professor Sean, thank you so much for your valuable insights.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Kevin. Thank you. Thank you.